How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Pirates Corner. I'm here with Josh, my counterpart here, and we are going to be beginning our first podcast here on YouTube. The reason why I chose YouTube was it's kind of more interactive with everybody, and people on Androids can also get them. So, hello, Josh.
Hey, Ryan. How's it going?
Alright, so we can just go right into some of our topics. We got the winter meetings, breaking down roster moves, some shortstop topics, the fifth spot in the Pirates rotation, Mitch Keller, and third base options. So winter meetings, we traded Ivan Nova over the White Sox for Yordy Rosario and $500,000 of international slot money. To me, this was a pretty good move because we're building up our farm system with some young arms. I believe Yordy was only 19?
19.
19. And also getting some money to sign some Latino players that could come up and be huge players for our organization. Do you agree with how we did at the winter meetings?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they actually got something for Ivan Nova because the White Sox took on all of his salary. It was almost $10 million for this year, and they gave up a pretty good player. Nova's nothing special, so it's not like we were expecting a guy in their top 10 prospects back for him, but to get a pretty good player and then some bonus pool money, that was very, very satisfactory result to that trade.
Yeah, and getting some cap room, good setup for some other signings. Probably not a Manny Machado or a player like that. Probably Bryce Harper's out of the picture at this point. But
yeah, room under the budget cap that we have in place.
Yeah, getting some budget to go out and maybe make another signing this offseason. So, another trade that happened before the winter meetings was we traded Jordan Luplow and Max Moroff to the Indians for Erik Gonzalez. How do you say his name?
Tanaj Thomas.
Tanaj Thomas and Dante Mendoza. This was a good trade too. Erik Gonzalez, nothing special obviously, but he could possibly be our starting shortstop.
He could, but I compare him to Ronnie Cedeno. So, good bench option, good glove, out of range, but he's not going to give you a whole lot offensively. Once again, with these two young starting pitchers, it's a more upside down, kind of rebuilding the foundation, infusing youth into the farm system, just rebuilding it from the ground up because they've made a couple of trades recently. I don't know if anybody noticed, but they have Chris Archer and Keone Kela on the staff now, but that takes away from the farm system. So making these moves to add to the farm system, whether it's volume in the Dominican Republic, signing those players from Latin America, hopefully one of them turns out to be a superstar, or just trading for these, acquiring in trades these young fireball, projectable arms.
Yeah, and some of the prospects that we lost, obviously Taylor Hearn, Shane Baz, and also Austin Meadows. But we did get a lot back, especially in the Rays trade. We got Chris Archer, who is a ace, or could be an ace in our rotation.
Yeah, very nice complimentary piece to Jameson Taillon at the top of the Pirates rotation. Now, as far as it goes with trading away Austin Meadows, that was kind of like a precursor to the Jordan Luplow move. And what happened with that is they kind of bet big on Luplow by trading away Austin Meadows, because Austin Meadows was obviously that guy, first guy up in case of injury to the very talented Pirates outfield. They've gone in a different direction since because obviously Luplow proved to not have quite the hit tool needed to be an everyday player at the big league level. Nice bench bat, good throwing arm, good defense, and he has power, but he just wasn't collecting hits at the rate that you would need to kind of say, this guy's a man. We're gonna make him the starting left fielder once Corey Dickerson ends up moving on from the team.
Yeah, and trading away Max Moroff, he didn't get called up for September call-ups. That was kind of a sign into the future that he was either going to get designated for assignment or he was going to get traded away. He's in a stacked middle infield that
from
the Pirates
a prospect
have.
standpoint.
Yes, from a prospect standpoint. Because Max Moroff obviously didn't get a starting job or anything, so he was still a prospect. And our next move was we re-signed Jung Ho Gung.
Yeah, but just to revisit and kind of wrap up things as far as the winter meetings goes, almost immediately after trading Ivan Nova, they brought in Jordan Lyles, and that's a very under the radar move. It was one year for $2 million. Jordan Lyles serves two purposes. He gives you a potential fifth starter, which will be another topic a little bit further down the road in this podcast, and he gives you a potential seventh inning man to replace what was lost with the Edgar Santana injury for Tommy John surgery. So, one way or the other, Lyles is a very helpful piece on either the rotation front or the bullpen front in the event that he fails as a member of the rotation. Kind of a Juan Nicasio situation. They probably won't let it get away like Nicasio did as a starter. They'll move him back quickly to the bullpen if the red flags are pointing in that direction.
Yeah, and in 2019, you're riding pretty high on Jung Ho Gung, right?
Yes. So here's what we're looking at. Colin Moran, he's going to come back, and he's going to be evaluated for range as a defender at third base. This guy really needs to add some lateral quickness and movement to his game at third base. Good, strong throwing arm, very accurate. Josh Bell compliments him all the time from that standpoint. But and from an offensive perspective, Moran he's average to above average, very adequate offensively. If he was defending third base adequately, very steady glove, but when you revisit the range, he ended up with a -8 defensive run save. I get that isn't actual runs on the board, it's like a metric measurement of it, but the idea there is he's giving away runs defensively, and Jung Ho Gung has proven to be a very steady glove and a strong, rangy defender at third base. Can't play the shortstop position anymore, but he's a great third base option. And the other element that Jung Ho Gung brings to the table is he's probably going to hit more bombs than Moran did last year. 11 bombs from Moran. A very serviceable OPS right in the 740, 745 range. But Jung Ho Gung, he can give you like 780 plus on the OPS front without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, and another pretty big bat in the lineup for the Pirates. So on to the next move, they traded Tanner Anderson to the A's for right-handed pitcher Wilkin Ramos. Ramos, another really young arm that the Pirates are trying to build up their low A teams with, and maybe their MLB team in the future. But Tanner Anderson was kind of just a guy who they would throw in the bullpen. Obviously, he got called up in mid-July, right before the All-Star break. That's when Josh Bell hit that walk-off double. But Tanner Anderson, nothing special.
Yeah, he's essentially the short relief version of Alex McRae. McRae can start. Tanner Anderson's probably not a starter. And if you ask him to pitch multiple innings, it's going to get ugly out there. He might be able to give you a good inning here and there, but yeah, just a very ordinary, bland arm. And he throws plenty hard, but from the perspective of like Pirates pitchers of the past, I compare both of them to Vance Worley. Nothing special, just hey, they were part of the team at one time.
It'll be interesting to see where Tanner Anderson spends the whole season in the Athletics system. I say probably AAA for most of the year.
Yeah,
unless he does something crazy good down there.
Yeah, with that delivery, he's slightly interesting, but once again, the velocity sits around 95, but other than that, everything is very bland. The off-speed doesn't have much snap and break to it, so he's a player that we're not really going to miss this season.
And as most of you guys know, if you have been following the Pirates, Gregory Polanco out for most of the year with that shoulder injury that he had. And the Pirates went out and signed Lonnie Chisenhall, who has battled injuries in the past, but he's a solid piece to come in here and play right field for a little bit.
Yeah, so what I'm going to get to on this front is we're looking at about 7 to 9 months after the surgeries, which happened at some point in September of last year. So best case scenario, Polanco misses April. Worst case scenario, he misses April, May, and June. That's why it was so necessary for Lonnie Chisenhall to come in and be the guy. He's a starting caliber player. And he's also a player who has some unrealized potential still. He was a very good prospect coming up in the Indians organization, and injuries have kind of slowed him. So we haven't really seen him at his best for a long period of time. So it'll be interesting to see if he really establishes himself as like a utility guy who's like a huge player off of the bench once Polanco makes that return. And all the reports right now indicate Polanco could come back within 7 months, but the expectation there just needs to be a little bit tempered. He'll probably come back a little bit slow because it's all in areas that will affect his swing, the injuries. So it'll be interesting to see how he does when he comes back, but he'll be a welcome addition once he comes back off the disabled list.
And some internal moves that were made. Our number one prospect, Mitch Keller, added to the 40-man along with Jason Martin, JT Brubaker, and Cole Tucker. These guys getting protected from the Rule 5 draft, which is a topic that I guess I can cover right now. The Pirates didn't really do anything. We lost, a single-A catcher and Jordan George.
Yeah.
So
both organizational players.
Nothing really
not
crazy.
Big loss. Their teammates say goodbye to them.
Yeah.
They miss them a little bit, but they'll have new teammates this year.
And then adding Mitch Keller is a big thing for me personally, because that means that his debut's on the horizon. And I guess we could cover one of the points that I wrote down for later in the podcast, but will we see Mitch Keller in 2019?
Yes. We're going to visit this in full right now. Mitch Keller will be a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates rotation, barring any unforeseen, unfortunate injuries that may come up. This guy, he struggled early in his AAA stint last year, but that basically just timed it up where he's looking at a mid-June debut. They're going to want him to kind of build on that strong finish he had to the season, show that he's mastered the AAA level. He'll be able to do that by the middle of June, mid to late June, and he could very well come up like Garrett Cole, just join the rotation and not look back on a team that wins enough games to make the postseason on the strength of their pitching staff.
Yeah, and just a little side note, I saw Garrett Cole's first MLB loss, which isn't that great, but Jason Martin, JT Brubaker, Cole Tucker. I don't think Cole Tucker will be up in the MLB this year because he was a AA player last year. So hopefully he can spend this whole season in AAA, really develop his bat and his defense a little bit more. Maybe JT Brubaker in 2019. I heard you saying something about that earlier.
Yeah, Brubaker is probably going to be the top option to spot start among guys that are not on the 25-man roster.
Like a Nick Kingham
or
from last year?
Stephen Brawl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so both of those guys will probably be on the 25-man roster, and they're both in contention with Jordan Lyles for that fifth spot in the Pirates rotation. But, JT Brubaker would see time and be actually a high upside arm in the event that somebody had to miss a start or somebody got injured. He'd be a guy that could step in and potentially be an asset to the team as a spot starter, and however long he needed needed to be a member of the Pirates rotation.
And for Jason Martin and Cole Tucker, when do you see them making their MLB debut?
So, if the Pirates were to run into a outfield injury situation, Jason Martin, he played at AAA last year. He'd be the guy they turn to. He's the immediate depth. He's essentially the outfield's version of JT Brubaker. Some upside there. He could have a future as a starter in the big leagues, just depending on how his power and hit tools continue to develop and how he adjusts to big league pitching. Cole Tucker is the Pirates' shortstop of the future. Ideally, you get him all year to play possibly a month or two at AA, and then the rest of the minor league season at the AAA level. If he's able to master the AAA level this season, you could see him in September. But then they'd be managing his arbitration clock and have a decision to make. Do we want him to be on the big league roster day 1, 2020, or are we going to keep him down until July and get that extra 4 months out of his rookie deal?
Yeah, and Cole Tucker, I mean, like, he did pretty well in AA last year, would you say?
He was a solid player. He came on strong late, but he's a guy who he's struggled initially at each stop, and he's been a slow developing player. So as long as like the Pirates give him time, he'll be a very good shortstop for him for the Pirates in the future. Okay, great defender. And his offense needs to continue to develop. But, his defense has never really been a struggle at any level. But the offense, from the standpoint of any slugging, extra base hit totals, stuff like that, he's always going to give you stolen bases because he's very fleet of foot. But the idea is you want to see him drive the ball, manage the strikeouts, manage the strike zone, be adept at drawing walks once he gets to the big leagues, and be fully equipped to be the man for a decade or so at the shortstop position for the Pirates, something they haven't had for quite some time.
All right, and going on for some more roster moves, obviously, I mentioned earlier, designating Alex McRae for assignment. He is still in the organization. He was optioned to AAA. We already went over Avant Nova, and we did touch on Jordan Lyles, how he could possibly be in the rotation as that fifth spot or be in the bullpen. I did see something that he is significantly better relieving than he is starting. So that'll be a little bit interesting to see. Do you have anything more? Yeah,
that's something to explore. The reason why you would give him a chance as a starter to begin the season is because he's diversified his pitching repertoire to a certain extent recently. His cutter and curveball have been working as a nice combination, and he throws a really nice slider. His fastball is probably playing at its best that it's been in quite some time. He's another guy who's experienced some injuries. And his prime years may still be ahead of him, unless, of course, he just settles into a relief role. He's been decent as a starter here and there for stretches, but either an injury or just lack of consistency kind of derailed that. All that was with a less diverse repertoire. The guy's an asset to the team either way you look at it. 1 year, $2 million. Hey, next off season we may be looking at a situation where we're trying to get him for less than $10 million a year average annual salary. That would probably be best case scenario out of this situation. Other than that, another good scenario would be he comes in, doesn't make it as a starter, becomes a dynamite middle reliever, and kind of builds that bridge back to Edgar Santana taking over his spot as a middle relief ace in the Pirates' dynamite bullpen.
All right, so now we're going to move on to some shortstop topics. So internally right now, and I'm talking internally as 40-man roster goes, we have obviously Kevin Newman, Erik Gonzalez, Kevin Kramer even, and possibly even Pablo Reyes. You see that Pablo Reyes is the cover of this podcast, and that's because my friend Josh over here rides very high on him. So let's talk about some internal shortstop options.
Yeah, so like Ryan mentioned, Kevin Newman's been the big name coming up, first-round draft pick. But at some point, pedigree needs to turn into production. Erik Gonzalez, we have a pretty good idea what he is. He's probably going to hit for a better batting average than Ronnie Cedeno. He might give you 260 and about like a 299 on-base percentage if he plays all like a significant part of the season at the shortstop position. He's going to lock it down defensively most likely, but he is prone to like messing up an easy play here and there. That frustrated Pirates fans in the past about Ronnie Cedeno. I'm not saying that he's as bad as Cedeno was from that standpoint, but I make the strong comparison. He's going to give you. He's going to definitely, if healthy, be in the plus category for defensive run save. So that's a huge upgrade over what the Pirates got from their shortstops last year, but it's a downgrade from an offensive standpoint. It would be a miracle if he gave you a 700 OPS. Jordy Mercer kind of gave you a 700 OPS pretty consistently every year. 700 is not a mark that should be strived for by any stretch of the imagination, but it kind of is the mark where, okay, does this guy give you enough defensive value to keep him in the league with a 680 OPS? Is he a bench player? It's kind of the mark, like the turning point. So Newman, we're not 100% certain what we're going to get from him. The arm strength doesn't look strong. He actually has plus range because he's still a relatively young athlete, but the arm strength looks like it'd be a better fit at second base. And we've got Adam Frazier there, and Frazier looks like he's primed for a huge breakout this season. So there's no way that Kevin Newman is going to take significant time from Adam Frazier. He could very well end up back at AAA. So the other options that you're looking at internally, believe it or not, Pablo Reyes came up as a shortstop. He's kind of diversified his repertoire defensively and added outfield, third base, second base into the mix to kind of get on the field. He's always been told that like he's not big enough to play in the big leagues. He's proven everybody wrong. He got to the big leagues, actually performed pretty well in a small sample last year. Throughout his minor league career, he's always been noteworthy amount above average on the WRC plus standpoint. So and he's sneaky with the power. So he's a guy where Erik Gonzalez is going to hit you about 5 to 7 home runs. Newman may hit you 3. Pablo Reyes may hit you 13. So it's something to consider. And from a shortstop standpoint, he may be the complete package: range, glove, arm, and ability to get on base. Because my man, he's sat in the range of an 8 to 10 walk percentage throughout his whole professional career. Anything to add on that, Ryan?
Well, something for a future podcast. I know that probably next time we're going to be touching on Pirates in winter ball, but Pablo Reyes has been raking in winter ball. I believe that he stopped playing per Pirates request, but
his season actually ended.
His season did end. Okay, so
yeah. Well, he wasn't killing the ball, and he was actually slugging significantly less than he typically does in minor league ball. And then
his average was up there though. Like he was hitting well.
It was decent, but from an OPS standpoint in that league, he was well above the league average. Yeah. So he was facing a lot of quality big league pitching. pitching in short relief because they don't have anybody stretch out and go long innings down there. So a lot of really good guys like you'll see Hector Neris down there pitching. The Cubs closer Pedro Strop.
Yeah, Strop.
He gets into a lot of games down there. I don't know that necessarily he's one of the guys that Reyes has been facing, but there's a lot of guys that fit that mold. Guys that are throwing hard and have a good secondary pitch. So while, he put together an impressive offensive performance, really nice walk rate in the Dominican League. His season did come to an end, and he played all over the place, but the Pirates actually got him into a lot of games at shortstop, specifically at request, and he played well there defensively down in the Dominican League.
Okay, so our next topic is going to be the external shortstop options, which there's a couple. Machado hasn't signed yet, but I don't think it's realistic for the Pirates to go out and sign Manny Machado.
Yeah, I have something on that.
Yeah.
At the winter meetings, they did meet with Machado's agent. There was a lot of speculation that they were this quote-unquote mystery team. Well, as of right now, the mystery team seems to be out of the running. And it kind of coincides with the Pirates having strong interest in Troy Tulowitzki. So there was a lot of interest on the Machado front, but as far as a money fit, the price tag would have to come down a little bit, and they'd have to kind of glean from some sources exactly what the White Sox, Phillies, and Yankees have on the table for him. Nobody's going to tell him that outright, but just to get kind of a hint of what ballpark range that is.
Yeah, a little side note on Machado. He did say that if it comes down to the wire and all deals are very similar, he would like the Yankees more than ever.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Pirates are out on that. But there are still a couple out there. Obviously, Troy Tulowitzki. I'm having a little bit of trouble saying his name because it's so odd. But he was released by the Blue Jays. He has battled injuries in his career, but he could come back and be a decent piece for the Pirates.
Yeah, he looked phenomenal in the showcase. He looked like vintage prime Troy Tulowitzki defensively in that showcase that he put together for MLB teams last week. But Ryan, with that said, would you like to rank kind of your list of where you have your wish list for current Pirate shortstop options on the free agent market?
So, I feel that internally we could do some good things too. If we trade for somebody, Kevin Newman might be the return. The Pirates can sell that it was a small sample size in the big leagues and that he was a top prospect coming up. Neil Huntington could sell that to a team.
So you're going Nick Ahmed in this direction.
I mean, maybe a little bit because Ahmed, he's a decent defender. His bat isn't great, which...
Yeah.
We've never had a great hitting shortstop, though. It's kind of been, Clinton Barmas, Jordy Mercer, guys like that. But Tulo's up there because I feel like Tulo is a player that the Pirates would go out and sign, and he could produce for us as well. Freddie Galvis, he's a decent hitter, and his defense is pretty good too. So maybe a trade, maybe staying internal, or possibly Tulo.
So... what I'm hearing is you have Tulowitzki number one, probably. We're going to rank trade options. So we'll go Nick Ahmed number two.
So
and then
number three, Galvis, and then 4 internal.
Okay.
And that could bring us into our next topic that I was about to go off on.
Well, I'd like to get to my list.
Well, yeah, I'm saying in the future...
Yeah.
We don't need a futuristic shortstop because we do have some options in the minor leagues. But go ahead and say what you were saying.
Yeah. As far as guys that are available on the market, I'm just going to completely stay away from Nick Ahmed because my mindset is thinking in the for the greater good of the Pirates farm system. So I'm going to say completely throw that out. But if he was on my list and I liked him a lot, I would just throw him in with my free agents as far as ranking and acquisition. One guy that I really did like via trade was Jurickson Profar.
And the A's got him.
The Athletics got him, but that opens up for a player I have on my list. So number one on my list right now is Troy Tulowitzki. He would be the ideal fit on a short-term deal. Number two on my list, I would have to go with Jed Lowry. And
yeah, he's another guy.
He's a solid bat. He's kind of had like a late career prime, but his defense is not going to be quite the same as what you would get from Troy Tulowitzki, say he was healthy. Number three, another offense first shortstop. He leaves a little bit out there to be desired on the defensive end of things. He's going to be better than Mercer defensively, but not like in the plus range for defensive run save. That would be Marwin González. And then
he can play a lot of positions too if we ever wanted to throw Reyes in there at some point, or even throw somebody else in there. He could play another position.
Yeah, so Marwin González, if you sign him to a 3-year deal, he could end up moving to left field once Cole Tucker takes over as the shortstop of the team. If, say, Corey Dickerson was gone, then he's a fit on multiple fronts from that standpoint. But once again, defense at short is not the strength of his game, but it's not a glaring weakness, so it would be an upgrade. And then number four on my list is a combo. I've got José Iglesias and Freddie Galvis, and I rank those two almost identically. And they're going to give you about the same as far as OPS standpoint goes. Freddie Galvis doesn't walk much. Neither does José Iglesias, but Iglesias is the one of the two that's more likely to give you a 300-plus on-base percentage. Galvis is probably going to live like in the 290 range from an on-base percentage standpoint. Galvis is going to hit more balls over the fence, but at the end of the day, they're going to end up with a similar, like Iglesias isn't going to slug a lot, and because Galvis doesn't usually hit for a high average, his slugging percentage will be similar to José Iglesias. Both are dynamite defensively, but they're both going to give you an OPS probably just below 700. If they eclipse the 700 mark, it would be a really nice season. Kind of a breakout for Galvis, who's never really had a breakout season in his career. But both players are kind of who they are at this point, and they're not worth a ton of money. Maybe $8 million average annual salary if there was a bidding war for them. Probably $6 to $7 million if they just decided I'm signing with the Pirates, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's why they're my fourth option.
So a little wrap up on the external.
Yeah.
We're probably looking at a pretty good to average, maybe a little bit above average defender with a okay to below average bat. Probably.
That's if we ended up with number 4 on my list.
Yeah.
2 and 3 on my list were both above average bats, but potentially below average defenders. Tulowitzki would be the man, and he's a great fit from a money standpoint. And
leadership.
Yeah.
There's some leadership there too.
It would give the Pirates a lot of room still in the budget to pursue potentially another starting pitcher or to overpay a left-handed reliever.
All right, so wrapping up external shortstop options, let's go on and dig into the farm system here. So the Pirates, most of their top prospects are all infielders, most of them. So we got the Cole Tucker, who we touched on. He could be a very good player in the future. And then we have O'Neal Cruz down there, too.
Yeah, O'Neal Cruz is the man.
Is that how you say it, O'Neal?
Yeah.
So O'Neal Cruz and Cole Tucker are two guys who can definitely be starting Pirate shortstops in the future.
Angel Cruz may end up switching positions. That's just speculation based on his height. There's really no precedent for a 6'6" shortstop in the big leagues. But as of right now, he's showing the tools he needs to stick at shortstop. If the dude gains weight, then all of a sudden he's a third baseman, first baseman, corner outfielder, maybe second baseman, best case scenario. But at his current weight, he's got enormous raw power, and he's defending the shortstop position at an adequate to above average level. So just to get in my every episode shot at the Dodgers, yeah, they wasted an asset when they traded that guy for Tony Watson, for 2 months of Tony Watson.
Yeah.
2 mediocre months of Tony Watson. They gave away a guy with enormous upside, and as Pirates fans, we're going to love that for the future.
Yeah, another kind of throwaway, I guess you can call it, was Corey Dickerson. Obviously, he's a huge asset. We'll probably talk about the outfield situation in a future podcast. But, we trade Daniel Hudson, and that seemed to be, one of the top guys in that deal. Well, there were only 2, but he seemed like maybe with the most
noteworthy player.
Yeah, most noteworthy player in the deal. The other one being Tristan Gray, another infielder in a stacked Pirates system. So I feel like Corey Dickerson was a steal for us too, and also Angel Cruz. So are you good with future shortstop options?
Yeah, let's dig into the 5th rotation.
All right,
spot.
So 5th rotation spot. There's some guys in there who can do it. Nick Kingham stands out to me.
He also stands out to me, even though a lot of Pirates fans seem to hate him.
Well, I don't know, because he could be a very solid pitcher in the big leagues. There's some more development to be done, but as of now, who do you think the favorite is for the 5th spot?
It's Nick Kingham, without a doubt in my mind. Probably second in line would be Jordan Lyles, and the Pirates still view him as a really strong option for middle relief, and they'd love to just be able to say, Nick Kingham, 5th spot's yours. Jordan Lyles, lock down the 6th and 7th inning whenever you enter the ball game. 8th inning if there's a lot of relievers not available that day. So here's what Kingham brings to the table. He brings to the table a finesse skill set from a power arms frame. So he can ramp that fastball up to 94, 95 miles per hour. But most of the time, he's spotting it in good locations, getting a lot of ground balls. When he's on his game, he's getting a lot of ground balls. We saw kind of parts of his game erode as the season went on last year, and Pirates fans feel really down on him right now, but they really shouldn't feel that way. There is no reason to feel that way other than they just saw probably the worst stretch of his career at the big league level. The guy can spot his pitches. He has a really good feel. He kind of learned how to pitch at the big league level last year, and what we saw was Nick Kingham earned the second day start coming out of the All-Star break. The Pirates rotation was on a phenomenal roll right then, and Nick Kingham was good enough to get the nod over Trevor Williams and Joe Musgrove coming out of the break right after Big J-Mo. So what does that tell you about the guy?
Yeah, he could definitely be a 5th rotation spot in my mind, and that's why I love the Ivan Nova trade. Ever since the trade deadline of 2018, I've been saying trade Ivan Nova, because we have some guys in our farm system that he was kind of taking their spot. So I knew that the Pirates might go out and sign a pitcher this offseason, and that guy's Jordan Lyles right now, and also Nick Kingham. I wanted to trade Ivan Nova because Nick Kingham went back down to the minors after his MLB debut that you saw, right? You saw his debut?
Oh, he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He retired the first 20 batters he faced with 9 strikeouts.
Yep. And I feel like Nova was kind of blocking some of the players from developing further, because by Nova blocking Kingham, it's kind of blocking some guys in AAA from getting starts. But aside from that, I like the Nova deal, and I feel like Nick Kingham can be in there. Now, here's a little interesting twist, though. When Chad Kuhl comes back, where will he fit in?
Well, we don't have to worry about that until 2020. There's a lot of speculation that he'll fit in as like a closer or late inning reliever. Him and Edgar Santana will be coming back at the same time. So just thinking about the future of the Pirates bullpen, that looks really good. Chad Kuhl kind of never locked down the consistency. Chad Kuhl, right now, his career has kind of mirrored what Kingham's has in a much smaller sample size. So Chad Kuhl has had some brilliance here and there, but nothing ever in terms of consistency. Nick Kingham, from a safeness, reliable, steady standpoint, he is that guy. He spots his pitches. He doesn't leave the ball up in the zone like we saw from a rusty Nick Kingham at times late last season. The man went almost 20 days in between outings on the mound, and everyone wanted to jump all over him for a really short outing where he was getting hit hard against a good hitting team. He was dynamite late season in Atlanta, and if not for a blown lead in that game, he probably would have earned the win. He had key starts. While he didn't log a bunch of quality starts, it was because he had some of his shorter outings, like that. He had a lot of 5 inning, 5 1/3 outings that were dynamite, okay? And Hurdle kind of handled him with the kid gloves and was pulling him. He wasn't going to let him go 100 pitches or anything like that. But he still, I believe he had like 6 or 7 quality starts last year. So that's a decent number. It's not a high percentage of the starts they made, but he had, if we're talking good starts, he had a fair number of those as well. But people seem to remember where he got lit up.
All right, so I feel that we should probably just cover third base options in our next one so we don't waste all the topics tonight. We did touch on Jung-Ho Kang and Moran earlier. We can talk about Brian Hayes in the next one. So right now it's looking like Nick Kingham's probably going to get that 5th rotation spot. And I would be all for it. I think that the guy can produce in the big leagues. Are you done talking about 5th rotation? You good on that? Or?
Yeah, I don't think Stephen Brault factors in.
No.
It's pretty much right now, unless the Pirates sign somebody else, it's Nick Kingham and then Jordan Lyles. And there's been some talk that Lyles could be the opener for Kingham if the Pirates opted to go that route. In the event that happens, it would be Lyles for like an inning or 2, where Kingham would pitch the next 5. So essentially, you still have Kingham as your 5th rotation starter. He's the 5th starter in the rotation. But the only way we would really stray from that is if Lyles was stretched out to be the 5th starter.
All right, so that wraps up all of our topics for today. A couple housekeeping things. These podcasts will probably be coming out either weekly or bi-weekly. We're still going to have to talk about that. And also, we are going to be at Pirate Fest. I'm going to put some stuff on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, I will put both of our Twitters on the screen right now. Mine is Ryan from PC, and then what's yours? Is it?
It's just at Joshua Ruga.
Okay.
My profile picture on Twitter is me with my All-Star football uniform on from back in the day. And
mine is with a camo Gregory Polanco jersey on. So we may put out a podcast at Pirate Fest, and we also may make a video of us walking around Pirate Fest and maybe upload that. But mostly on this channel, you are going to see podcasts about the Pittsburgh Pirates. So, I mean, I guess that's probably all, right?
Yeah. Like and comment.
Yeah,
Let
like
us
and comment.
know what you think.
Talk to us on Twitter. We would love to hear from all you guys. So thank you for watching, listening to episode 1 of the Pirates Corner podcast. We will see you in the next one.
Have a good one.